Hey, y'all. On today's show, we helped Theresa design and launch her product.
Welcome to the Flipped Lifestyle Podcast, where life always comes before work. We're your hosts, Shane and Jocelyn Sams. We're a real family that figured out how to make our entire living online. And now, we help other families do the same. Are you ready to flip your life? All right, let's get started. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Flipped Lifestyle Podcast. It is great to be back with you again today. Super excited to welcome another member of the Flipped Lifestyle community onto the show so that we can help them take their business to the next level. We're really super excited today to welcome Theresa Steckel. Theresa, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Unless you think that Shane and Jocelyn are perfect, I'm going to tell you what happened earlier today. We looked up and I saw, I got a notification that said someone had joined a Zoom call. And I looked down and I was like, what? Because we were getting ready for an appointment. We had a student teacher meeting at Isaac's school. So we were getting ready.
It was a parent teacher.
Our parent teacher, not the student teacher. That's right. We're not the students, we're the parents. But we had this parent teacher meeting. So we were getting ready to go to that. And I looked down and I was like, oh no. We've double booked, the dreaded double booking when 5 people are controlling your calendar and you're not one of them. And so I looked over at Jocelyn and I said, I think we have a podcast right now.
And I was like, what? And I'm usually such a slave to the calendar. It's so funny. I mean, I get up every day and I look at it and I'm like, oh, we got A, B, and C to do. But for whatever reason this morning, I didn't do that.
And then it said, and then for some reason we had A and then B, 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 and C because there was all sorts of stuff going on at the same time. So Theresa was kind enough to move this down a couple hours, and we have finally gotten on the call together. So we are sorry that we stood you up a couple hours ago, Theresa.
It's just the way it goes sometimes.
Yep, life happens. I really hate rescheduling podcasts, but thank you so much for being kind enough to do that for us.
You're welcome. I'm just happy to be on the call. So I appreciated you guys rescheduling too.
All right. Well, I'm excited for you to talk a little bit about your background. So we talked about it before people come onto the podcast. We do like a little intake survey so we can learn more about you, and it sort of guides our discussion and lets you know what we're going to be asking you so you can start thinking about it. And one of the things that we ask about is your background. And I think your background is really interesting. So can you get into that just a little bit? Tell us about how you started and what it is that you do and anything else you want to tell us.
Yeah. So going way back, we moved to Oklahoma, 24 years ago, and I became a housekeeper in a nursing home, making a whopping $4.25 an hour, and decided that I got talked into going to an LPN program. One of my friends talked me into it. And so I got admitted into this LPN program, and she did not make the class. So I ended up there by myself.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
What is an LPN?
It's a licensed practical nurse. So more technical and less like assessment and critical thinking. So I worked as an LPN. I was married at the time. We had a daughter. So basically after that, worked my way through nursing school. Eventually, as I was working through nursing school, had 2 kids and a husband, was working full time. Spent a lot of time in pediatric hematology, oncology, and then worked in public health for a few years, and then decided I thought I wanted to teach. So I went back to school and got a master's with a focus in nursing education. I taught full time for about 3 years, but really kind of missed the clinical care. I loved working with students, but I missed sort of that hospital piece of it, that acute care. So I got a full-time job in nursing leadership, became a director of patient care. I was in that role for about 7 years. And as part of that position, I was responsible for 85 to 110 beds, kind of depending on which time period you looked at, up to 200 employees at one time.
Whoa.
Yeah. 125 to 200 was usually I sat closer to 120, which was a little more manageable. And then most recently, about a year and a half ago, was promoted to an executive level position, and have been working more in focusing on service and kind of the patient experience side. So I've loved really all the jobs I've had. There's always something you don't like. I've spoken at state events and national events a little bit. I really like that. I love working with students and mentoring. As a leader, you have a lot of chances to work with students and new nurse graduates. So I always really loved doing that. But that's kind of how I ended up here.
This is crazy because you've literally climbed the ladder.
Yeah, this is like the classic American
this
dream.
Is the American. I started out as a housekeeper making $4.25 an hour. And now I'm a vice president, right? It's like.
Okay, so it sounds great. So Theresa,
it does sound great.
Why are you trying to do online business?
Exactly.
Clearly you have the dream life, right?
Yes.
What's the, before we get into your, what you're doing online, what is the desire there? Why online business instead of, you're clearly successful. That's an amazing resume, right? Anyone would be proud I'm out in charge of 200 employees and 110 patients and.
Right. Everyone's dream, 200 employees.
No, right?
Definitely not my dream.
Maybe not 2 employees. But what is the goal? What's the dream? What's taking you down this path?
Yeah, I've always wanted more flexibility with my family and my kids, and always kind of had, I call it a bug or an itch, or just sort of that deep desire to have your own business and do something on your own. And I've never really been able to shake it. And so while I've kind of climbed and done great things in my career, that's just never gone away, and feeling like there's something more that I'm supposed to be doing. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. We always say that people are driven into online business for 2 reasons. It's usually inspiration or desperation, right? You're inspired to do something, you feel like there's something that you want to do, or maybe something happens like we had, like a negative experience, a catalyst that kind of drives you forward. Our good friend Mark Mason, he says, the 2 reasons that you start a business are because you're being driven away from something, or you're moving away from something, or you want to move towards something, right? It's kind of the same thing. Right. So you're definitely leaning on that. I'm moving toward this because it's I'm at the, you're not at the end of your career, but you've kind of done it, and it's can I do this other thing inside of you?
Well, and here's I feel like, Theresa, that probably you have other gifts and talents that you want to share with the world. And when you work in this healthcare space, you're sort of in this one area mostly, right? Instead of being able to share all that you have to offer.
Yeah, you have to kind of, especially as a nurse, find ways to not get pigeonholed into specific things. It's pretty broad. It is a great career. I wouldn't say that it's not, but, trying to branch out into other areas, you can't just, go work at Google or something.
Right, exactly. And try some new project. 20% of your projects are all the same, or no, you're the vice president. You have one job, right? Yeah, exactly.
And I have definitely had kind of those events in my life in the past where I wish I had more flexibility. My mom was really sick for a long time, and I didn't have the flexibility to go spend the kind of time with her that I would have liked to. My job was great to let me go whenever I wanted to, but it would have been nice to just been able to go be with her.
Yeah, without asking for permission, basically,
right.
Or making sure everything was okay on the backside. And that was interesting. Well, I was actually posting I took a picture of me and Jocelyn at the school today, and she was like, "Why did you just take a picture of us sitting in the waiting room at the principal?" And I was kind of like, "Cause I want to remember, this is cool. It's it's the middle of the day, and we can go to a parent teacher conference. And at the end of the parent teacher conference, we got to tell our teachers, we are always on call. If our kid ever needs us, you call us." And if you need help, let us know. We can volunteer. We can be here for that, and we don't have to check in with anybody. And that's one of my absolute favorite things about online business. Period. Have you always wanted to do online business, or did you maybe try some other things?
No, I tried some other things. I did that whole thing too, where you write down everything you can think of and try to pick a job, or pick a business out of the sky. Like socks. I was going to, make socks.
You were going to make, hold on. This was not in the intake form, I don't think. What you were going to make socks? What does that mean?
No, it's
I don't know what this is.
Yeah, I got to hear this one.
Well, I never quite figured it out, which is why it never worked. But not make them myself, but you can import things from China and get designs on them. And I have a sister who's an artist, and I was like, "Oh, she could design these cool socks." And then I don't know, we could sell them to nurses because they buy compression socks, and
That was the first person I ever has said, "All right, my first idea was making socks."
I had an idea of making curtains once. It's a little different than socks.
Yeah, Jocelyn tried to sew curtains once. I mean, we went out and we were teachers. We didn't have any money, but we were I was like, let's do it. Let's go buy the fabric, buy a sewing machine.
I made 2 sets of curtains and they did work. The problem is it took me
75 hours to make the set.
Long time.
Right. So, so scratch socks. What happened next?
So we've done a couple of different things. We had a brick and mortar business at one point, and I don't know if you read this in my intake form, but sort of the last 2 weeks of that business, I had our last child. And so she was about a week old, and my husband was supposed to find someone to work in the business because I had a full-time job. So his job was the business, and I had a job, like a traditional nursing job. But he was also working part-time, and he got stuck working this one weekend. And so I had to run the business, and my baby was 7 days old, and I'm working in this business where we rent out vehicles and trailers, and I'm nursing, and it was horrible. And I
have to say this. You wrote in your form, I was one very unhappy lactating mama.
Oh, yeah.
So hard when I read that because I was like, well, that's not a good situation.
No, that reminds me of teacher life too. My baby wasn't 7 weeks old, but when I had Anna, I was working at the school, and it was a really old school. And so every single square inch of space was taken by somebody, and there was nowhere you could go to pump milk. So I had to go in this office, and I can remember one time, the principal opened the door, and I'm like, oh, no, don't come in here. He was going to bring a kid in there to or something. I'm like, no.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it makes that noise, right? It's like, it's
Okay. For all the men out there uncomfortable about this breastfeeding discussion, I'm going to move us forward. All right.
I am a nurse, so I can talk about just about anything.
That's right. No, I'm just kidding. But it says you and your husband are still married through this.
Yeah, we are still married 25 years, even after that incident. But when he talks about brick and mortar, I look at him and I don't know how he doesn't die, because I think, no, I'm not doing that again.
All right. So brick and mortar is out. Making socks is out. What was next?
So we dabbled in a little bit of MLM, but it always felt like a bait and switch to me. I was never comfortable with it. You're not really selling the product. You're selling an opportunity. And
yes,
Jocelyn hates MLMs.
You're speaking my language, Theresa. MLMs. I don't know. I was reading this thing about them the other day about how 99% of people lose money, and I'm like, how are they still in business?
I know, right? Yeah. And it always makes me mad because when we try to run Facebook ads, sometimes it says are you an MLM? Because we don't allow MLMs to advertise on Facebook. I'm like, no, we don't even know. We have no products. We're not trying to do that. We're not even MLM.
And before we get emails, we're not an MLM because you own your own business. You're not trying to recruit people.
Right. We're more of a marketing.
We don't take any cut of it.
Marketing and promotions company. That's what we are really. We're just helping you build it and market it, basically. So
So didn't do that. And then my husband's had a couple of service-based business that I haven't really helped out with, but I really want something, like I said, that's flexible, still allows me to be creative, kind of use my leadership the way that I want to. And so I probably have for 4 years been just trying to think of, and at that time I still didn't know about, I knew there were online businesses, but I didn't really know what that meant, which is kind of, and now that I've discovered you guys, I'm like, I don't know how I was so slow to figure it out, but
because if Shane and Jocelyn can do it, surely I can.
Yeah.
You guys can figure it out. What's taking me so
I don't know. This interview's going downhill.
We're off the rails. So.
It didn't make sense to me until I still remember the moment I was listening, and so I know that this is a common way that people find you. But I had discovered Pat Flynn through a different conference I had gone to, and he was a speaker there. And so a couple months later, I was doing some back reading into some of that material, and I thought, well, I'm going to check this guy out a little bit more. So I went to his stuff. I listened to a bunch of his podcasts, and I still remember I was on the stair climber at the YMCA, and I heard, I think it was Shane's maybe second interview on the Pat Flynn show, and I was like, oh, that makes sense to me. That's something I could do. Because when I would Google things that nurses were doing online, they were doing a lot of blogging where they were really just doing affiliate marketing. So they didn't have a product. They were just like peddling other people's things. And I didn't like that. So, and I'm not totally opposed to affiliate marketing. I just didn't want that to be my only thing.
It shouldn't be your only. We're not against affiliate marketing either. We don't do like affiliate launches and stuff because we like to, we don't want to spam our email list with everybody else's stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, but we do recommend products. We recommend things like Aweber and Kajabi and, you know, stuff like that. Like we've done that in the past.
A way to do business.
But it should not be your only way to do business. Like has to be your courses, your services, your products, because your family and it's your future and it's your life, and you can't rely on somebody else's stuff to support you. That's more like gravy, right? That's the extra stuff that you get.
Yeah. So I think, you know, when I heard your podcast, just the concept of the idea made more sense to me, but I still was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then I just kind of, like I was on one of the member calls one time where Shane was like, get off your bottom and just pick something. I was like, all right, I'll just pick something.
Right. Theresa, you're making our member calls sound unappealing.
I know, right? Like,
no, they're great. They're a lot of fun. Just, you know.
Our member calls are amazing.
We're hardcore in the member calls. I'm not going to lie. If you want to see how they go, we have a couple clips. We actually cut up individual clips of some of our best questions and answers, and we put them on our YouTube channel. So fliplifestyle.com/YouTube. Check that out. Okay. All right. So let's pivot here then. Let's talk about, okay, what was the thing that you just picked? And then tell us how that's kind of turned into something different and the direction that you're taking now with your online business.
Yeah. So what I did was I called a couple of my friends who were instructors, full-time nursing instructors, and I said, what do you need? And a couple of them were like, I really need some good case studies. And so in nursing education, that's one of the ways we teach students, right? You kind of go through, okay, this 50-year-old male walks into the emergency department and he has these symptoms. What's your first thing? What's your second thing? What meds? What diagnosis? You kind of walk them through a real scenario. So I thought, I'll do that. I'll write some of those. So I started trying to write those, but again, I'm in leadership. And so it was just the amount of time, and I don't know, I'm still trying to learn for myself what part is necessary and what part is me just trying to be perfect. And I can't quite figure that line out yet. But it has to be accurate, right? You're teaching people how to take care of patients. So just the time that it was taking to build all that and validate that the data was accurate. And then I think when I was at the live event last year, I'm trying to think who asked you the question, maybe Bonnie, about content. And that was when I realized that other people could help you create some of that stuff. I mean, I thought, but even with that, like hiring people through Upwork to create some of it was really expensive. And it was, I think, February before I even had February of 2019, like 3 case studies ready to sell. And I didn't enjoy it really. And so I kind of kept doing it because I didn't have any other ideas. And my daughter started nursing school in January. And so she was coming to me and asking for help with this or that. And I kind of told her how I made it through nursing school and how I've coached my other students to make it through nursing school. And then I started looking at some of the things that she created after I kind of told her how I had done it. And suddenly I was thinking, you know what, it would make so much more sense for me to just do that because that's what I really like. And so then I pivoted towards more tutoring students, starting with the first semester because I kind of have all that content together. So, and I can still use those case studies that I've made. They're not first semester material. They're more second and third, but they'll flow really nicely in there. So what I've been focusing on now since probably the beginning of July is trying to create materials for nursing students and then figuring out what would the rest of that look like if I built that around a membership.
And that's going smoother and a little bit, it's coming a little easier.
I mean, I haven't made any income off of it, but I haven't really put it up for sale, anything for sale yet within that piece. But as far as
not for sale,
I know, right. But the content creation is much easier to me. It flows it just feels more authentic.
Good. That's awesome.
Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And that's why we're so big. Like, people come into the community and they really wrestle with their idea. Like, the first course that you take is learning your idea and then validating it, right? And people really struggle with that part because we all want to go hit the home run, or we hear the guy on stage that hit the home run, right? And we want the home run, and we think that's how you do it, is that you really research it and you make a good decision and your first business works out. But here's the truth. 90% of people's first tries at online business don't work. But we always find this. It bends you toward what eventually does work, right? Like, even now, you can just, in that story you just told, I just did something and I did it and I realized it wasn't right, but it made me wrestle with it, and that pushed me back to where I think I should have been the whole time, right? And when you make that decision, you can't get to that part.
And I think, listening to you guys for the last year and a half, you say that a lot. And, and I just had to keep reminding myself of, okay, this might not be the thing, but it will turn into the thing. And I also knew I didn't know how to build a website. I didn't know what an autoresponder was. I didn't know about email list creations. I didn't know any of that. And so just doing something forced me to learn those steps. And I haven't sold a lot of my first product, but actually 2 this week. It's my best week ever.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
I learned the process.
Yeah, that is amazing. And, there are so many people who are listening right now who have maybe been listening to us for years, and they haven't even done that much. So even if it wasn't the perfect thing, like, think about how much you've learned. And now, even if you decide to pivot, it's going to be so much easier this time.
Oh, yeah. Like, we just had a couple weeks ago, we had Kevin Depew. He just crossed over.
I listened to that. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we played a best of episode the weekend before that. I wanted everybody to hear his first episode where he was just like, I have nothing, right? But he was kind of where you are. He was in his second iteration. Like, he had tried a couple ideas, didn't work, but he was to the point where he was comfortable with the tech. He was comfortable with the terminology. And he was like, yeah, I can pivot really fast now. I think I can actually have this thing launched in a month, right? Instead of a year. And he did. And now he just crossed over his 100 member mark, and he's like doing really well. But it's all because he made a decision to try something, and he failed a couple times. But it got easier and easier. And then the ideas can happen faster. Jocelyn and I were talking, we launched a product a couple months ago. It was a paper newsletter. It's called Prolific Monthly. And it's like deep marketing strategy, like daily promotions. And I launched the entire product line on a completely new platform that we had never used by myself with absolutely no help from our team in 3 days. Right. And this thing required like logistics. I had to figure out who was going to mail it, how we were going to make it, what was going to be in it. We like the whole thing. But like, it's just after years and years now of launching products and seeing hundreds of other people launch products, like, you just get good at it. And I look back and I'm like, it took me, I don't even know how long it took us to get our first digital product online, like probably 6 months. But now it's like, I've got an idea. 3 days later, we have a product. So anyone out there that's listening to this, do what Theresa did. Pick something, do something, learn things, pay your dues, get through the ropes, and then bam, the next idea is probably the one that's going to make it. Okay. So let's figure out how you're going to make this idea big. So before we get into like the technical stuff of the business, sounds like the product's kind of being created. What fears and mindset struggles are holding you back?
I think so. God, there's so many. And recently, it's been a lot of anxiety lately. And a little bit of exhaustion. So, I'm used to knowing what I'm doing. I just know what I'm doing. I know what I'm going to do the next day. I'm kind of in control. And so I think kind of starting a new job in this online business at the same time and just learning so much in a year and a half has been a little overwhelming and exhausting. And learning to manage my energy has been a little bit more challenging. And then I had a sale this week, and she said she couldn't find the product. And so I tried to send it back to her, and she didn't respond to my email. And so I didn't sleep the entire night.
Like you were worried, like you were just worried about the customer.
Yeah. I was just, and I'm like, and then you start thinking, oh my gosh, what are they going to say about me? It's online, and I'm going to have, just going some weird,
I suspect
crazy.
We're the same person.
Yes, I think you guys are related somehow.
Yeah, like you're sitting here talking, and I'm like, yep.
they're going to tweet about me, and all the world will know.
Right. That I'm a total failure, and my people at work are going to know
I take my customer and make it right. The whole world will know that.
Then I'll tweet that, and people will think I'm lying, and because they'll believe the customer. Like
exactly. That is exactly where my brain went. It's so crazy.
Sitting here, we're sitting in two chairs at a table right now. He's sitting here looking at me like it's you.
As you were talking, I was sitting there pointing at Jocelyn while you were doing.
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing that she said.
Yeah, it totally is.
Oh, I am glad you didn't say imposter syndrome, because if you're like you're the vice president for 24 years, you don't get, or whatever, you don't get to be imposter. But I get that though, like the stress of getting it right for your customer, and like just the anxiety and I love how you put those. It's funny how many podcasts we've done now. I've never heard someone say that and felt so related to what you said. You said anxiety and exhaustion.
Yeah.
Because we feel that a lot.
And I'll tell you, I think that was a lot of what was going on with me the past couple of years, because, I had all this stuff going on, and I guess I didn't really let myself, have permission to think about it or rest or whatever. Like I just kept going, and I finally just reached a point where I couldn't do it anymore. And I just started kind of falling apart. And then, on top of all that, we brought the kids home for homeschool, and I don't know, that just made it that much worse.
Well, that was kind of like what Theresa's going through. Like Theresa, you said, I just started this new job as a vice president, a year ago, something like that?
Yeah, about the same time I started trying to build a business too.
Oh yeah. So it's like you basically launched two new things, and you were vastly over prepared for one and maybe under prepared for the other. And that just collided, like a battering ram basically, and kind of created some exhaustion in there. So
and it's a lot of learning.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wonder if maybe now might be a good time for you to hire someone on a very part-time basis to help you with some of the website stuff.
Do you have anybody that helps you in your home? Like, do you hire a housekeeper or anything like that?
Yeah, that might be the best place to start, actually.
Yeah, this is something we've been talking about a lot lately with people, especially like our one-on-one clients. Is we're seeing people know they need some kind of support network to help them achieve their goals, right, and their dreams. And everybody goes straight to, well, I need a virtual assistant. Well, I need this, or I need that, but not really.
And it's okay for people to do that. Like people think, hiring a virtual assistant, that's my next step. But then when you mention hiring someone to help you with housework or something, that's when people step on the brakes. And they're like,
why would I do that?
Whoa.
Well, hold on.
I know.
No?
I've definitely been thinking about it for a while.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, I love everybody we work with. We have an awesome, small and mighty team right now, and they're the best people ever. But if I fire anybody, it's everybody but the lawnmower guy and the person that is our personal assistant in our house. Because if we don't have the support, we have a personal assistant who comes here every day from 10 to 3. Okay. And she helps us handle all of the chores, right? Not deep cleaning. We have a cleaning lady that comes in on Thursday who does the deep stuff, right? But Jen helps us get all of those stuff done. She does our errands for us.
She files stuff.
Like if Jocelyn needs her to run to the store to get the stickers for the kids' project tomorrow or whatever.
She does grocery shopping. She buys birthday presents.
Yes.
And really, in most areas, it's a relatively inexpensive thing to hire.
It's actually cheaper probably than hiring some kind of online assistant or marketing help. And what's crazy is it's not that we don't want to, we think we're too good to do those things. It's when she handles that, it allows us to serve you. Right. And for us to be there for our community and be there for our clients and to be there for our members and to be there for the people who write in every week from our podcast listeners, right? We have to clear that mental space. We have to clear it, even if it's only a couple hours a day. Pat Flynn, we spoke at FlynnCon, and he asked us on stage, do you mow your yard anymore? Because the story that, I discovered online business while I was mowing my grass. I was on the lawnmower. I found the Smart Passive Income. I heard this guy talk about online business, and I nearly wrecked the lawnmower. I got so excited because I was like, that's it. That's how I'm going to do this. And he asked me, do you mow your yard anymore? I'm like, I haven't mowed a yard in 5 or 6 years, because if I'm mowing the grass, I'm not in here talking to you on this podcast.
And it's not about being lazy or anything like that. It's about clearing your mental space. because right now our assistant is actually, she's on vacation. She was on vacation today. And what I'm sitting here thinking right now even is that, oh, I forgot to put the laundry in the dryer. I mean, I'm seriously thinking that right now. And I really did. So I have to do that after we get this podcast. But, it just takes off that kind of stress. And there are other things that you can do. Like, it's not just somebody to do your laundry or whatever. Like, if you're sitting here thinking, if you're listening out there and you're thinking, okay, well, that sounds nice. And if I had the money, I would do it. Well, how can you, don't say why you can't do it. Think about how you could do it. Could you skip a meal eating out this week and pay someone to come in even 2 or 3 hours and do your laundry? Could you pay someone to watch your kids for a little bit while you do some work? Could you pay someone to mow your grass? Like, there's a lot of different possibilities. And I don't want to dive too far into this because I'm actually presenting a talk on it at the live event. So
you're going to hear a lot more about this.
Yeah, I'm going to hold back just a little bit. But
the reason I stopped mowing my grass was because we had a coach like 6 years ago, and I was still mowing my grass. And I got on a coaching call with him, and I was still mowing my grass. And I said, "Hey, man, I just got done mowing the grass." And he goes, "Why are you mowing your grass?" I'm like, "I don't know. It doesn't take, it's an hour and a half." And he goes, "That's an hour and a half that you could have grown your business." And I was like, "Oh, that it's true."
Ouch.
And then he told me, he said, "I want you to hire someone to mow your grass next week. And I want you to sit at the window, and I want you to have your laptop in your lap, and I want you to watch out the computer or watch out the window while they're mowing the grass. And I want you to make 5 times more money than you pay that guy to mow your grass." And I did it. I wrote an email. I sent it out, made a couple $100. I paid that guy $20 to mow my grass because it was a small yard. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're saying here is can you get it? The anxiety may still be there, but maybe you can get rid of the exhaustion if you would just take back 5 hours of your life every week. Write a list of everything that you're doing at home besides your job and besides your online business and your kids, right? And just say to yourself, how can I get back 5 hours a week, 20 hours a month around my house? If you can do that, the exhaustion goes away, the creativity comes back up, and you get to move forward without feeling anxious and exhausted at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right, Theresa, it's been a fun conversation today. I think we got to delve a little bit into topics that we sometimes don't get to, so it's been kind of fun. But let's talk a little bit about moving your business forward. What can we help you with just to kind of overcome and move to that next step?
Well, I think I have probably 2 key things. The one thing's more kind of technical. So I still have stuff on the old website, and then I have the new website. And I know that my email list, which isn't very big, maybe 43 people now, 50, I can't remember. But I know it's a mix of students and instructors. So I just sent out an email this morning that was written towards instructors, but it was really hey, I have this free dosage calculation webinar that your students could have. Do you have anyone that's struggling? Maybe they would like to watch this. But I'm not quite sure how to kind of transition that. Do I just kind of let it float over there by itself, or do I just get everything redirected to my new site? Does that make sense?
It does. I think we're in any pivot, there's always this question of what do I keep? What do I get rid of? What do I turn off? What do I turn on? Right. Mm-hmm. And as you will have much more clarity when your product is completely done. Because how far are you from being completely finished with the student-centered, the student-focused product? For the
first semester?
Yeah.
I can't, if I could take a week off of work, I would be able to get it done.
Yeah.
So it's probably going to take me, I think it's going to take me a few more weeks. I've noticed that I have this really bad habit of, I don't know if it's a habit, but I get creative and I start creating a bunch of stuff. And then I've got to go back and put the logo on it and the website name and I didn't organize it very good as I was creating it. So I've got almost probably 2/3 of the actual stuff created. It's just kind of going back and reorganizing it. It's taking me almost as long as it took to create it.
Yeah. I think the best, anytime someone doesn't have their product done and they're asking us about all these other questions, I almost always tell them, do your product. Forget everything else. Don't send any more emails. Yeah, don't send any more emails. Don't do any more blog posts. Don't do anything else. You're so close to having the actual product, because when the product is done, it becomes a magnifying glass shining the sunlight onto the ground. So it like focuses everything. Like you all of a sudden know exactly what to do because you say, wow, I've got this product. What do I need to do? I need to tell people about the product. And that's what everything becomes about. And if you're going to pivot, I would just when you get the product done, abandon the other thing. Like, don't worry about it. Like, put the stuff in there, forget it, shut it down. Anything that you want to bring over to the new place, and go all in. Like, go all in on this one thing and make it grow. You've already got the passion behind the content. You know this is where you kind of want to be going forward. So don't worry about what's happening on that old stuff. Go all in on the new thing, but like, get the product done. Product first. If you can finish the product, all this other stuff becomes so much more clear. Like, how do I get it? Well, how does my email list grow? Well, I need a lead that leads to the product. What kind of content do I create? Content that leads to the product. So like, just finish that product. And if you get that done, it's going to help you do like so much better, so much faster.
So, and then I think the second, so that makes sense to me. And actually I kind of forgot that I had stuff for sale on the other website. And so when I got a couple sales this week, I was like, oh no, what do I do?
Yeah. But that's where the greed kicks in. You're like, maybe I should focus on that a little, like, right? So, yeah.
And then I thought, I'm having all this anxiety about a product I'm not even planning on continuing to sell. So, sort of wasted emotion a little bit. And then the second piece is, so the part I like is, so I am an introvert, which isn't always obvious when you meet me, but I like the one-on-one kind of interaction with people. And I think one of the hard things for the online business to me is you can't really see how people are responding to you. And so it makes it scarier to me. I mean, it's much more vulnerable than when I'm just in a one-on-one situation. But so I'm trying to figure out what would fit for me, as far as like, I've thought about kind of doing, like Zoom calls or webinars with students a couple times a month. But I guess I'm trying to figure out what would that look like. Would it just be a Q&A where I'm like, hey, what are you struggling with? Or would I have a topic I've designed to talk about? Or is that something that I can just figure out after I get the product done?
Yes. So the beautiful thing about online business is that you can design it any way you want it to be designed. So I often say the best product or the best way to do something is the intersection of what your customers want and what you're willing and / able to provide them. So you have to figure out what it is they're looking for and what fits your skill set and your strength the best to get it done. And
you can change it at any time. Like right now, we've always done Q&A in a chat room format. Okay. So, in the Flip Your Life community, if you're a premium member of the, our community, you get to go in and there's 2 live Q&As with me and Jocelyn every single month. Right. And we answer questions. We do all that. We've always done it where people type in a chat room, Jocelyn reads the questions, we answer them. Okay. But they changed some of the tech on YouTube, which is how we used to deliver this content. So we said, all right, we're going to use Zoom. And since we were going to use Zoom, we decided, let's let people answer the questions this time. So everybody put their questions, or ask the questions. Yeah, not answer. So like everybody put their questions in the chat. Jocelyn picked one. I just clicked on them and they talked and they got to answer the question and talk to us live on air. Right. It was awesome. Like, it was totally cool. Like we've always kind of not done that because of logistics, but I'm kind of wish we always had now because it was really, really fun. It could change in the future. We could, I was just coaching somebody the other day and they didn't want to do live calls where it was too confusing to get all of their people together in one place at the same time or something. So what they did was the people submitted the questions early and then they read the question online. Right. And then they just did like a Q&A, but it was, you submit your question ahead of time. So there's 1,000 different ways.
Okay.
And I would just do it and practice a couple different ways and change it on the fly and see what happens, because you'll eventually find something you're like, this is it. I love this and I want to do it this way. And that's what you're looking for, but you won't know until you experiment a little bit.
So just pick something is what you're saying.
Yes, that's usually what I say to people.
The moral of your story, Theresa, is pick something and move ahead.
You know what's so funny? It's like pick something is probably the wrong way to do it.
Yeah.
I should tell people pick the next thing. Just pick the next thing, because the next thing probably has no bearing on the 3 next things, right? It's just do the next thing and it will lead you to where you have to go next.
All right, Theresa, we are at the point in the show where we are going to ask you, what is one thing that you plan to take action on based on what we talked about here today?
So I have two, but I think my first thing is I'm going to get my product done.
And,
I think you should do that.
Yes. And second, I'm going to hire someone.
All right.
Love it.
Awesome.
Clean my house.
And I am going to see you. Let's see how, right now we're recording this. It is, what is today? August what?
August 23rd.
It is August 23rd. So we are going to see you on September 9th.
A month.
Okay. It's almost exactly a month.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I see you at Flip Your Life Live, I'm going to say, Theresa, did you hire? And is your product done?
And let's see the product.
And let's see the product. You got to come up to me on your phone and pull it up.
Okay.
Is that a deal?
Sure. That won't make me nervous at all.
That's a massive accountability. Massive accountability.
All
okay.
right. So if you would like to see Theresa's product and know who she hired, join us in Lexington, September 19th through the 21st. We would love to see you there at Flip Your Life Live.
I don't even know if this is going to air before Flip Your Life Live, but if it isn't, if it does, you sign up, fliplifestyle.com/live. If not, you got to buy the replay. Sorry.
Yep. Buy the video. Give us after.
Okay. All right, guys, what a great conversation with Theresa. Man, that was an awesome talk. I love watching people's journey. I love seeing them make those big pivots, and I love watching them find the thing that really they latch onto and they're ready to take it to the next level. We would love to help you take your next steps. We would love to help you choose your next thing over at flippedlifestyle.com. We have a free course to help you come up with your idea, validate that it's going to make money online, and even get your product started. There is a free course over at flippedlifestyle.com. It's called our Online Business Quick Start Guide, and we would love to have you go check that out over at flippedlifestyle.com. All right, guys, that's all the time we have for this week. But before we go, we always like to close our show with a Bible verse. Jocelyn and I get a lot of our inspiration and motivation from the Bible. There's a lot of great stuff in there about being successful at business. But today, Theresa has a Bible verse that she'd like to share with us. So, Theresa, take it away.
Yeah, so I chose Matthew 6:26, which says, "Look at the birds in the sky. They don't plant or harvest. They don't even store grain in barns, yet your Father in heaven takes care of them. Aren't you worth more than birds?" And I always think about that verse, and this is going to sound really silly, but when Shane tells his cow story, I always think of this verse. Like, if God cares about that cow, He cares about you.
So let me tell the cow story, because someone might be like, a cow story? What are we? This whole conversation.
We should make them go back and listen to the podcast.
Oh, I should, but I'm going to tell the cow story. So when I was selling insurance in my young 20s, right out of college, and I had this little office where I was I was a glorified secretary, and I hated my job so bad, and I just wanted out of it so bad. And I remember leaning up one day and on the filing cabinet, looking out the window, and there was a herd of cattle across the street. And I remember thinking to myself right then in that moment, I would love to be one of those cows. Look at those cows. They're just free to do whatever they
I know. I'm from Nebraska, so I can so connect with that.
That's right. So if God takes care of the birds and the cows, He's got something for us too, right, Theresa?
Right.
All right, guys, that is it. That is all the time we have for this week. Thank you so much for listening to the Flip Lifestyle Podcast. Until next time, get out there, take action, and do whatever it takes to flip your life. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Even if you just had someone like Monday and Thursday.
And I'll tell you, it'll make you so happy when you come in and like everything.
Yes.
Well, we've been working on what things we can cut out of our budget, because my husband's decided now too, he's not going to do online, but he's trying to do something new. So the last 2 weeks have been just kind of line item, like what can we cut out? What can we cut out? What else can we cut out?
Yeah.
But
this is buying back time. It's
right.
way more important
and
than
mental
spending
space.
Money. Yes, because it's going to allow you, like for example, if you let's say, I'm not saying you do this, but let's say you cancel cable, right? Mm-hmm. But you take that money and immediately put it right back into somebody else or something else, right? Mm-hmm. That doesn't really make you anything. But if you put it back into this mental space and this time, it allows you all that time back to go make more money, and more space. You know what I'm saying? So there's ROI.
Right. And that's what we're trying to look at is what things can we cut out that really aren't going to move us forward so that we can pay for things that are going to move us forward.
When you're looking at your line item veto, what we do is we say, like, we're actually about to do this. We do this every about quarter. I've got all three of our last statements printed from the business and our personal life. And we're going to go through it with a highlighter and we're going to say, how does this save us time or how does this make us money? And if it doesn't do one of those things, especially the business side of the equation, it's probably going to get axed. Right. So just ask yourself that every time. Does this save us time? Does this save us money? Does this make us money? Nope. Bye. And it's gone. And then you start looking at those other things that do. Okay.
All right. So you got this. Can't wait to see you
guys.
We'll see you soon. Okay.
Have a great day.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.